So the CNSC, we've been around for over 75 years now, regulating the nuclear sector in Canada. For many years, we were known as the Atomic Energy Control Board, or AECB. And in 2000, the Canadian Parliament enacted the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, or NSCA, and created the modern organization that we are today, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, or CNSC, one of the many acronyms we love to use in government. And they gave us a mandate to regulate the nuclear sector in Canada, so to be the watchdog and overseer of the nuclear sector across Canada in order to protect people, communities, and the environment, ensure the peaceful use of nuclear energy within Canada and internationally, as well as to engage the public and share information about the nuclear sector and nuclear safety. And another important aspect of our mandate is we are an agent of the Crown. So whenever we're making decisions or taking actions that could impact the exercise of Indigenous or treaty rights, we have the duty to consult and accommodate Indigenous peoples. Next slide. So our organization is composed of two main aspects. So there's the staff, so that's Sean and I, and we're about 1,000 experts across the country who have expertise in a whole host of different areas like reactor safety, hydrogeology, consultation, etc. And we are there to help provide fact-based, evidence-based recommendations and assessments to the decision-making body for the CNSC, which is the Independent Commission. So the folks you see here on the screen are the Commission, and they are appointed by Governor in Council, so federal cabinet. Usually they're appointed for 4 or 5 year terms, and most of them are part-time, so they're only called upon when there are commission proceedings. So either a commission hearing to make a decision or a commission meeting to get updates and information. And our president, Ms. Romina Velshi at the far left there, she is the only full-time member, so she works full-time and has the dual role of being the CEO of the staff and president of the commission. And these are the folks that actually make decisions on applications to construct, to operate, to decommission nuclear facilities across Canada. So we bring forward our independent expert recommendations as their staff. But then what the commission does is they hold commission hearings where they hear from the public, other experts, other departments and agencies, Indigenous nations and communities and stakeholders in order to ensure that they get a fulsome idea and picture of the concerns and issues at hand for any given nuclear project or proposal. And then they'll make sound decisions about that on behalf of Canadians and the government of Canada. And those decisions are binding and final. It doesn't go to cabinet, it doesn't go to a minister to make that decision. However, their decisions can be challenged in federal court if someone doesn't agree with it. And if they want to make sure that they're making their decisions based on all the evidence at hand and also meeting the Crown's duty to consult. Next slide. So as we mentioned, we regulate the entire nuclear sector in Canada. And in Canada, we are a tier 1 nuclear nation, meaning that we have the entire nuclear fuel cycle within Canada, all the way from uranium mining and milling, which is mainly in northern Saskatchewan, to nuclear power plants in Ontario and New Brunswick. Nuclear power provides up to 60 to 70% of Ontario's electricity supply, as well as medical applications, as you may see in hospitals, to waste management, etc. So we cover the entire fuel cycle, and we're overseeing all these activities to ensure they're operating safely and protect people and the environment. And we also regulate the entire life cycle of these facilities and projects, right from their conception all the way to their decommissioning. So we have that full oversight, and we're always there ensuring that these activities are safe. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we have commission proceedings, and it's a great opportunity for the public and Indigenous nations and communities to get involved. There's lots of ways to get involved in the commission proceedings, either through written interventions, like an email or letter that goes in that the commission reviews and considers, or an oral testimony where you come before the commission, kind of like a court, but that you're able to provide an intervention and describe your expertise or concerns or knowledge that you want to share with the commission as they're making their decisions. They're also webcast live. The hearings are always translated into English and French, but also can be translated into local Indigenous languages when requested. And there's also transcripts and also records of decision. So it's a very transparent, open process to ensure that the commission gets all the data and information it needs to make sound decisions. Next slide. Next slide. So now just a bit of how we as staff engage and consult with the Indigenous nations and communities and the public. This is a really important aspect of our job that Sean and I do, and many of our colleagues across the country. It's really important for us to be out there in communities who live around nuclear facilities or where there's proposed projects in their territory and areas. And our goal is to build trust. We're a life cycle regulator. We want to be partners throughout the life cycle of these facilities to ensure there's transparency, there's information flows, there's a hearing of concerns and issues and having those addressed, and building partnerships over time to ensure their effective oversight and regulation. We have a number of different tools and approaches to do that, including formal arrangements with Indigenous nations and communities where we commit to long-term engagement. And we're really proud of our work on that, but still lots more to do on that front. Next slide. And we have a number of other tools as well to support our engagement and consultation, including a participant funding program that provides opportunities for Indigenous communities and the public to apply for funding to support their participation in our regulatory oversight work and commission proceedings and regulatory processes, as well as a number of key regulatory documents around the requirements and expectations of nuclear licensees or proponents, where they have a very clear mandate and important role to play in engagement and consultation as well as a policy framework of how we work with Indigenous knowledge and knowledge keepers. So we have a growing suite of different tools and policies that help support our work with communities across the country. Next slide. And in terms of small modular reactors, there's a lot of talk about these new emerging technologies. We're out there early, just like as part of this program today, that we're trying to engage communities as early as possible so that they have information that they need and answer their questions about the nuclear safety oversight process and regulatory process, and that they can ask questions about nuclear technologies in general, about how radioactive wastes are managed and overseen, and how we would consult on future projects. And so we're doing that even before we receive a specific license application from any project proponent, like say SAS-Power. But should a proponent like SAS-Power or others come forward and actually apply for a small modular reactor or other nuclear technology, that kicks off our formal consultation process. And we'd be engaging directly with affected communities and the public throughout the process to have their issues and concerns heard and integrated and reflected throughout the process. So there's a multi-stage approach, but throughout the whole process, engagement, consultation, transparency, and trust building is a cornerstone of our work. Next slide.
I think that's over to me, Adam.
Yes, over to you, Sean. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Sean Bellier. So the first slide I thought I'd cover is just what exactly is an SMR from a CNSC perspective. So from the CNSC, we don't actually define formally what an SMR is. We recognize that they can come in all shapes and sizes. They're all nuclear reactors. They're Class 1A facilities. But as a general rule, they're typically smaller. They go usually from 1 to 300 megawatts in size. They can be water cooled or use other technologies. They can be modular or use traditional construction methods. So there's a wide range of technology and sizes, and we regulate them all. And here you can see there's a person beside each little reactor here. It shows how they come in different sizes. So just for an example, here's this is an example of a large scale SMR. It's the HTR-PM reactor. It's in China. It's a gas reactor. It's about 200 megawatts in size. So on the upper end of some of the SMR reactors, some of the SMRs that we're seeing, it combines 2 reactors that feed a single turbine, and it's currently in testing. And I think later this year, they'll get it hooked up to the grid and provide power full time. The next sort of example I have is a really small SMR. It's called a micromodular SMR. It's a Westinghouse Da Vinci. It's 1 to 5 megawatts electrical in size. So compared to up to 300, this is on very much the smaller scale. it can produce electricity or heat, and you can see in the picture there, they're showing it as part of a small community and how it would help feed that. So the next thing I cover is some of the, from the CNSC perspective, some of the small modular reactive activities in Canada. So the first one we have is in Ontario Power Generation is the Darlington New Nuclear Project. They have a license to prepare site, and that was renewed last year in June of 2021. And they've recently applied for construction of the BWRX 300 reactor. Global First Power, which is in Chalk River, Ontario, so it's an hour or two north of Ottawa. We have received a license to prepare site for them, and it's undergoing a CNSC-led environmental review. So this reactor is about 5 megawatts electrical, 15 megawatts thermal. Again, it's a high-temperature gas-cooled reactor. And really the purpose of this one, it's a demonstration or commercial reactor to build it for the first of a kind and show that it works. New Brunswick. So New Brunswick is supporting 2 SMR vendors. It's Arc Nuclear and Moltex Energy. And really, so if you look at those 2 reactors, so Moltex is actually looking at using CANDU fuel as a source for their reactor. It's a molten salt reactor. And ARC is proposing a fast spectrum sodium reactor. So again, different technologies in play here. MB Power is aiming for about June of 2023 for a license to prepare site application. That's their current plan so far, but they may change. And then finally in Saskatchewan, so as you probably know, there's 2 study areas that have been identified for the first potential SMR. One is the Estevan study area, and the other one is the Elbow study area. They have chosen the GE Hitachi BWRX 300 design, so that's the same one that they're building in Ontario, in Darlington. And as you know, part of the reason for being here today is for some early engagement on that exact project. So a little bit about the technology. It's up to 300 megawatts, so it's but on a smaller footprint. It's what they call a boiling water reactor technology. It uses light water to cool and moderate it, unlike our CANDU reactors now that use a heavy water. It runs at about 3 to 5% enrichment, and it's currently undergoing a vendor design review with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. So that's everything for sort of that we're seeing in Canada right now. I thought I'd talk to you quickly about our regulatory approach. So basically, we have a flexible regulatory framework from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. It allows a safe regulation of innovative technologies, various nuclear technologies, while utilizing a grading approach. So that is how we do it. So we license all facilities the same with the same rules, but we grade them to the level that they need to be. And we do allow proponents to demonstrate how they're proposing to meet those fundamental nuclear safety objectives like control, cool, and contain. So our regulatory, we do hold the licensee is ultimately the responsibility for safety. We recognize that. And we believe our regulatory framework is fit for SMR projects now, and as experience evolves with them, we'll be able to do them in the future. So again, as I mentioned earlier, all SMRs are Class 1A facilities. As Adam mentioned, our commission makes that final decision on license hearings. We have 14 safety and control areas that we address in our license application. And again, we use a graded approach for those depending on the facility being licensed. And we regulate over the entire life cycle of a plant, right from preparing the site to decommissioning it and abandoning that site. There's a reg doc we have, Reg Doc 351. It contains our licensing process if you'd like to look at some of that further. And I think my final slide for you here is what if there was an application to license an SMR? So we have several licensing stages. So it's licensed to prepare site, construct, operate, decommission, and abandon a nuclear site. But in any case, especially for the first one, the license to prepare site, we do a full environmental review. In Saskatchewan's case, that would be under the Impact Assessment Act. And we also do a full technical assessment of the reactor. That then feeds into a public hearing and a license decision. And if that license decision is positive, they go ahead and build the reactor or construct it or operate it, and we'd monitor compliance of those licenses throughout its operational life. An important part is Adam mentioned as well, there's ongoing Indigenous and public involvement in the licensing process, as well as ongoing environmental monitoring. So at the end of the day, the CNSC is here to make sure that all stages of reactor operation, construction, and preparation are done in a safe manner, and that's what we're here to do. So.